Finally, we return to a special series on our plastic problem. As we've noted in prior stories, the troubles with recycling are a major part of all of this, but it's become even more pronounced in recent months as the global market for recycling waste has changed dramatically. Economics correspondent Paul Solman has the story as part of his weekly take, Making Sense of Financial News.
It's trash day in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Every week, Mira Singh dutifully totes her recycling and compost to the curb, taking care of most of the family's waste.
This is 2 weeks worth of trash.
That's 2 weeks.
And what it has is plastics, like these are flower sleeves. I try always to tell them I don't need a flower sleeve when you buy flowers, but sometimes I'm not quick enough. Like compost tea bags, so this is the string, and it has a staple, so it shouldn't go into the compost.
Really?
The tea bags, yes, I'm very anal about this.
So are you kind of a recycling fanatic?
I wish there was a word like OCD for recycling.
Since the average American chucks a hefty 4.5 pounds of trash a day, and we generate almost a third of the world's waste, with barely 4% of its population, Singh's discipline seems heroic, if not angelic.
These should not go in recycling.
In industry parlance, her materials.
Plant's running good. Got 460 tons again today.
Yesterday, the day
Man,
before.
oh man.
Ben Harvey runs a recycling plant just west of Cambridge.
We're stockpiling material, hoping that some markets will develop, that will open up, but we don't know how long. We will continue to be able to hold and store this material and take material in.
You might call this Harvey's Great Wall for China, because till this year, China had been Cambridge's, America's, and indeed the world's #1 recycling market. But environmental protection and a reputation makeover have shut China's door to all but the purest of recycling imports. Plastics have been banned completely, and by 2030, it's estimated, this could result in more than 100 million tons of plastic waste with nowhere to go. And what about our biggest recycle export, paper? Any non-paper items in the 2-ton bales, like bits of plastic, count as contamination.
They went from a 3 to 5% contamination level down to a 0.5% contamination level, which is almost impossible today to make that product.
So Harvey, like so many other recyclers across the country, is forced to unload once valuable commodities to other countries, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, India, at a loss. Some Massachusetts recyclers have even managed to get waivers from the state to burn what's picked up in the blue bins or send the stuff to landfills. Save That Stuff in Boston has added employees and hours to try to decontaminate and meet the new standards. But even though some commercial paper bales do, the Chinese have now imposed volume requirements as well.
They need to ship at least 5 loads at a time. As you can see, we don't have the space to store 5 loads of each grade.
And Chinese inspectors are suddenly required to visit the facility, says the man whose job it is to market the material, Mark Gallardi.
They'll take pictures of what's inside the bale. They'll probe the bale to see the moisture content.
So they want to make sure you haven't waterlogged it so it'll be heavier or what?
Yeah, or if material's sitting in an open dumpster and it's been rained on, they don't want to buy water weight.
So how long does the Chinese inspector take?
They could be here for a whole day or half a day, depending on how many loads we're shipping.
And that's just too time consuming for you?
It's too time consuming, and we can't ship any other product during that period.
But how in the world, you ask, did our recycling become so reliant on a country half a world away? Greg Cooper leads recycling efforts in Massachusetts.
About 20, 30 years ago, when we were starting to ramp up our recycling programs across the country, I think China saw an opportunity to utilize some of the materials, the raw materials and the commodities that we were producing through recycling.
There are boxes here.
And those materials were pre-sorted at home, as Fred Rogers and Mr. McFeely taught their TV audience back in 1990.
That's right, the cans go in there, and the bottles in another one.
The new stream of pre-sorted recyclables was an opportunity that quickly prompted Chinese investment.
And they started to build a lot of paper mills and plastic manufacturing plants.
Just as they were shipping us more and more goods. Once unladen, though, the ships had little but ballast to take back home. So how about the growing stream of U.S. recyclables? Eric Levy is the CEO of Save That Stuff.
The recyclers were in a great spot. You know, if these containers are going back empty, we can fill it with product.
At a rock-bottom shipping cost. Recyclables soon became one of America's biggest exports, mainly paper. To up the volume even further and get even more citizens to recycle, municipalities then introduced single-stream recycling.
Common bottles, cans, and paper are placed in one bin for collection and then transported to the local single-stream recycling facility.
The material still had enough value that recycling centers could afford to do the sorting for us. More recycling, less attention to detail, resulting in product adulterated with who knows what.
People just say, oh, throw it in the bin. And for a long time, that was okay.
But it's not okay anymore.
We're not moving any material to China. Very difficult to move into China right now.
And countries that had been accepting what China wouldn't have also tightened their standards on U.S. recyclables. Again, the man who moves the material, Mark Gallardi.
This would be a mixed paper right here. Multiple grades of paper mixed together. Right now, that's going to go to India.
How can you stay in business if you're paying people to take the product that you were selling?
Well, right now, it's been very difficult. It's really hurt the bottom line. We're trying to do price adjustments to stay ahead of it.
Which means his customers, the municipalities he services, will wind up paying more.
How much more expensive are you today to a new customer than you were a year ago?
More than double.
And when the contracts come up for renewal,
Municipalities who were either getting paid or getting rid of their recyclables for free are now having to pay fees anywhere from $40, $50, $60 a ton to have them processed.
it's become so pricey in California that nearly 1,000 recycling centers have closed in the past 2 years. The only thing making recycling of paper economically worthwhile in Massachusetts? The state is closing its landfills. So, with trash costs rising, recyclables remain, for the moment, a cheaper way to go. But if consumers have to pay to recycle, says Ben Harvey,
we're wondering if they would be as excited to do it as they have been in the past. In some areas of the country, there are laws that they must recycle. In other parts of the country, they're free to go back to a landfill or a waste energy facility.
Meanwhile, at the beginning of August, China announced plans to impose a retaliatory 25% tariff on paper and plastic recyclables, threatening to make E.L. Harvey's Great Wall even greater. For the PBS NewsHour, this is economics correspondent Paul Solman, doing a dirty job, but someone has to do it.
And we all need to sit up and pay attention to that.